Across the infinite stretches of space, past dying suns and haunted nebulae, a strange transmission echoed like a whisper carried on cosmic winds. It spread through shadow markets, pirate strongholds, and assassin enclaves, coded in languages long thought extinct. One message, one name, one bounty. Target, Darkseid. Reward, infinite. No face appeared with the transmission. No explanation, just coordinates. A suicide call that only one being in the known galaxy would take seriously. A trail of debris drifted in the wake of a roaring space cycle, its engine snarling like a caged beast. Riding it with one boot on the accelerator and the other crushing a bounty hunter's skull from a previous job was Lobo, the last Charnian. Born in blood, bred in battle, Lobo wasn't merely a killer. He was extinction in leather. The bounty had piqued something primal in him. Not greed, not vengeance, just the irresistible call of an impossible fight. Apokolips burned on the horizon like a cancerous star, veiled in ash and iron. A world without dawn, its surface alive with fire pits and enslaved screams. Titans built like temples march its plains, grinding mountains to dust with each step. It was a place where hope came to die, and even that was optimistic. Lobo dropped from orbit without subtlety. His bike carved a sonic wake across the obsidian clouds, descending in flames like a middle finger hurled from heaven. He landed hard, cratering a square in the heart of the machine city. Parademons swarmed in like vultures. They weren't ready. With a chain in one hand and a frag grenade between his teeth, Lobo spun, twisted, tore, and danced. Steel wings snapped. Screams echoed. Blood rained down like oil. He didn't slow down. He didn't need to. They weren't worth it. Darkseid had yet to show. In his obsidian throne chamber, the Lord of Apokolips stirred. He had felt the presence. Not just the intrusion, but the gall. The audacity of a lone creature, barreling into his dominion with no army, no plan, no fear. It intrigued him. That was rare. Elsewhere, Lobo carved through the world like a plague. He fought not for strategy, not for progress, but because he liked the sound of bones snapping and the way fire looked in his beard. He fought until the skies darkened, not from smoke, but from silence. Everything around him had stopped moving. He stood in a coliseum of wreckage, the bones of war machines and scorched stone beneath his boots. Blood clung to his armor like a second skin. His eyes scanned the distance. Still no sign of the big bad. Then it happened. A sudden shift in gravity. A presence like a black hole, crushing the space around it. The flames dimmed. The noise fell away. From the shadows stepped Darkseid, titanic, calm, and unflinching. The air tightened with his arrival. He did not rush. He did not roar. He simply existed, and that was enough to change the rules. Lobo chuckled, his grin wild and uneven, but even he hesitated. For the first time in ages, he felt weight, real cold weight. This wasn't a fight he could swagger through. This was something else. Something godly. Darkseid's eyes glowed, not with anger, but with inevitability. Omega energy pulsed at his fingertips, reality bending at his whim. His gaze fell on Lobo like a sentence. Without a word, the god moved forward, and time seemed to lean away. Lobo reacted with instinct. He charged, riding the shockwave of his own fury. His chain whipped forward, aimed for throat. But Darkseid raised a hand, and with a gesture, shattered the chain midair. Lobo was already lunging, shoulder first, crashing into a wall of invisible force. He flew back, skidding through concrete and metal, but rose laughing. Blood ran down his face. He spat out a broken tooth and kept moving. This time, he struck from above, leaping, spinning midair, bringing down a crater-forming punch. It landed, hard. The ground split. Buildings shuddered. Darkseid did not move. Instead, he looked down at the dust on his armor, a minor curiosity. Then he responded, with emotion smoother than death itself. Darkseid raised his palm and unleashed a focused Omega beam. Lobo dodged, but just barely. The beam split into twin serpents of energy, curving behind him, chasing his every feint. One clipped his shoulder, dissolving flesh into smoke. The other tore a hole through a mountain behind him. He was laughing again, It wasn't just a battle. It was an opera of destruction. Lobo regrouped, calling his bike with a whistle that shattered glass a miles. It came screaming from the sky, catching him mid-leap. He mounted it and ignited a sonic charge, hurtling toward Darkseid like a meteor. Darkseid's eyes narrowed. He raised both arms, and the earth itself heaved upward to meet Lobo, forming a colossal barricade of metal and molten stone. The collision that followed sent ripples through the planet's core. Fire erupted, the shockwave threw armies miles away. Silence followed. From the smoke, Lobo stumbled out, armor cracked, skin melting and healing, but alive. Darkseid stood untouched. He had not budged. "You're still standing?" Lobo muttered, half laughing, half spitting blood. Darkseid finally spoke, a voice like stone grinding on eternity. "You are resilient, but you are chaos. I am inevitability." No more words. He raised his arm, gathering cosmic energy. Lobo clenched his fists. No chain, no bite, just fury and the scent of war. Round 2 was coming. Lobo cracked his neck, cracked his knuckles, and charged again. He roared through the sky on a space cycle, swinging low through burning towers, using the rubble as cover. In his hand, he gripped a Charnian relic, something ancient and vicious. The grief spike, a blade made from the bone of his dead homeworld's god beast, forged in agony, banned across 3 galaxies. He threw it like a comet. It screamed through the air, slicing lightning, spinning toward Darkseid's chest. Darkseid raised a single finger and the blade shattered mid-flight, fragments scattering like glass in a hurricane. The reaction sucked the oxygen from the atmosphere. Lobo was ready for it. Barely. He dropped low and smashed into the ground feet first. Lobo landed hard, kicking up debris as his boots tore into molten ground. The air crackled around him, static from broken reality. The grief spike was gone. His best shot had failed. He wiped blood from his jaw, spat onto the ground, and clenched his fist again. The silence between them was no longer dramatic. It was dangerous. Darkseid stepped forward. One stride covered 100 yards. Another, and the very gravity around them thickened. Lobo tried to rush, but space itself pushed back. His muscles burned as he forced himself forward, one slow step at a time, like wading through a collapsing star. He roared and lunged. Fists collided with godflesh. Each blow from Lobo would have cracked the planet's spine, but at Darkseid, they were mere echoes. The main man fought like a cornered beast, elbows, knees, punches, even a savage headbutt that drew ichor from his own forehead. Darkseid didn't flinch. Instead, he lifted Lobo mid-swing, gripping by the throat, not crushing, holding, like a teacher correcting a student. Lobo thrashed, swung his chain, jammed a grenade into Darkseid's side, and let it go off. The explosion scorched the air. Still, Darkseid stood. His hand never loosened. "You mistake resilience for power," he said, his voice devoid of emotion, "and noise for meaning." And then he squeezed. Lobo's eyes bulged as his spine cracked like a whip inside his body. The healing factor kicked in instantly, but it wasn't fast enough. Darkseid lifted him high and drove him into ground with such force that a shockwave erupted across Apokolips, flattening mountains and shattering distant towers. The crater hissed with heat. Lobo tried to rise, but this time, slower. His limbs shook. His bones creaked. For the first time, a flicker of hesitation crossed his face. Darkseid's eyes ignited. Omega beams, twin lances of cosmic fury, spiraling with lethal intelligence, shot toward Lobo. He dodged the first, but the second curved midair, striking his chest, punching through flesh and bone, exploding out his back. Lobo screamed, but kept moving. Half of him was charred, ribs exposed, but he was still breathing, still laughing. "You're a tough old bastard," he muttered, spitting blood. "But I've had hangovers hit harder." Darkseid didn't respond. Instead, he raised both hands toward the sky. Reality split. Above them, the Eye of Apokolips opened. A massive war engine that channeled raw Omega energy through ancient tech. It hadn't been used in eons, not since the last war gods. But Darkseid had decided. This ends now. The eye pulsed, Lobo stared upward, blinking. Oh hell, the blast came like divine judgment. It didn't burn, it erased. The sky turned white, then black, then nothing. When it faded, a canyon had been carved into Apokolips, miles wide and deeper than planet's core. At the center of the smoldering crater was a blackened figure, smoking, twitching, barely whole. Lobo, half his body gone, healing slow, his breath rattled, his voice was hoarse. But he grinned anyway. Darkseid descended into the crater. No words, no grand speech. He simply placed his hand on Lobo's chest and unleashed a final Omega Pulse. Point blank. It tore through Lobo's atoms, unraveled his very essence. Not enough to kill him. That was the punishment. Just enough to scatter him across 10 dimensions, his body broken, so fragmented, pieces locked in Omega stasis. No death, just defeat. Darkseid turned and walked away, dust rising around his boots. The war was over. The main man had fallen.